How's it going, guys? Cody back again, dropping yet another video. Right, guys, do you know what? For those that don't know, the other day, for those that have watched it, I did a video about me and my mental health. I was half asleep, I was extremely tired, and I wasn't at my best, right? People have reached out to me saying, look, respect you putting it out there and stuff and being very open and very honest. People need to talk about it more and things like that, right? Like I said, now, I'm not an advocate for mental health. It's just I've struggled with it all my life. And it's only 3 years ago that I actually sought help and acknowledged there was issues there. I always knew that I was different. I always knew that I wasn't fully wired up right. I was very violent and I had a violent upbringing and I was bullied at school, and I was a victim for very, very, very many years. And the mental health, I believe mental health is inherited. So it's passed down through your DNA. So your parents might have suffered with mental health to an extent. Then you get it a little bit. But the thing is with mental health issues as well, what you need to remember, a lot of mental health issues actually come from trauma, abuse, sexual abuse, and things like that. Now, like I said, these are all horrific things, and it's quite sad that some people, it happens to them as children, and that childhood trauma carries it with them for the rest of their life, and people self-harm. They start suffering with addictions, alcohol and drugs, serial self-harming, suicide attempts, or sadly and tragically, suicides. Now, I was 3 years ago, I was finally sought help and everything, nearly got sectioned again. I was sectioned when I was in the army. I was based in Germany, in Gütersloh at Mansa Barracks. I was part of 17 Karuna Battery, which is part of 26 Regiment Royal Artillery. And I was sent to Vegberg. Vegberg was up at the American base in northwest Germany. And I ended up being kicked out of the military because of my mental health. I had an injury and my mental health was really bad. A few years ago, I was losing the plot, and I went to the doctors, and I was ranting. I wasn't myself at all. I really was bad. I don't remember what I said, but this guy tried to section me. Now, apparently there was no police available or something. So what ended up happening was I said, look, I've asked to be referred to the mental health, like psychiatrist, whatever. So I said, if you make me an appointment, I will go. So they did. And it was about 6 weeks later, I got the letter, and then I went up and everything. And I was like very, very paranoid and was worried, and said to the guy on the phone, listen, when I walk in, I said, if people come from behind me or whatever, or you try to lock me in and keep me, I said, I'll fight. Not trying to be the big man, just I was scared. I knew that I needed to speak to somebody because I knew that what was going on was in here. I was doing what a lot of people do. I was keeping things bottled up. Now, the best way to describe it in my way would be, all my life, it's like getting a can of Coke, and every time there's a problem, you throw it against the wall, 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 and it's all dinted and it's bubbling up, and the pressure inside is unbelievable. And every now and again, I used to just explode. A lot of times I imploded, a lot of times I exploded. And when I exploded, I ended up in trouble. I've assaulted police, threats to kill, witness intimidation, possession of firearms, possession with poison with intent to endanger life, everything to fraud, to assault on police, to GBH, to threats to kill, just everything in between, guys. Everything you can imagine I've been arrested for. So it was really weird, right, situation. So I've gone to this psychiatric unit, right, and I was scared. I was really scared. And I walked in, and I did this on the video the other day. It was a big room, like a classroom. I could have sat anywhere. I sat in a certain seat, right? Now, the first thing the guy said is, the first thing I've noticed, you suffer with hypervigilance. He said, you've walked in the building, you're scanning everywhere. You've walked into this room, you could have picked any seat. You've sat in the corner of the room with your back against the wall, facing the door. So any perceived threat, you can engage. He said it's hypervigilance. And we went on to talk about hypervigilance and what comes with it. Anyway, down the line, I was diagnosed as having CPTSD, complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And it stems from childhood. when I ran away from home, I was sexually abused by a guy that plied me with alcohol on Middleton Road in Royton. And as a result, one of my main things, I've got CPTSD. I didn't like to admit it because we're men and we're macho and we're not allowed to suffer and we're not allowed to talk about it. Well, it used to be socially unacceptable for people to talk about mental health. Oh, you're a fucking man up and be a man. The truth is, talking about it is actually the manly thing to do. And it's now very socially acceptable. Now, like I said, I'm not proud to have mental health issues, but I'm proud that, well, I am proud in a way because I'm proud that I've suffered with it, but I deal with it as well. A lot of people it gets on top of, which, like I said, those people need support and everything. It's got on top of me at times. My past used to walk me like a dog on a lead. I couldn't look forward in my life because I was always looking back. I've suffered with depression. I've suffered with anxiety. I still probably do suffer with anxiety. And a lot of it stems from childhood abuse, sexual abuse by someone that lived local to my mum and my stepdad, life experiences, a life of crime. A life of crime is a life of misery, guys. And I've hurt a lot of people. I've done some horrific things to people. I'm not going to go into details because I don't want to incriminate myself. But I've hurt a lot of people. I've done some crazy shit, and I'm not proud of that. It's not a big man thing. That it's just it's sad and it's reality. Now, I used to blame a lot of these things on probably my mental health and the fact I was getting paid, but I've also suffered with depression. Now, depression is horrific. I probably still do suffer with a bit of depression, but depression is such a vast thing. People just think, oh, you're just depressed and you're sad. It's not just that though. Like I used weird little things like people used to ring me, right? My phone would be ringing. I'd be sat here, my phone's ringing, right? And I just wouldn't answer it. I'm looking at the screen, I just wouldn't answer it because I just, some days I was social and some days I wasn't. And I really just, I was weird. Like people used to be like, you've just texted me, I've rang you straight away, you're not answering your phone. And it was all psychological. I just wasn't being social that day. I felt empty inside. Some days I woke up and I was fantastic. Other days I woke up and I wanted the world to be over. Other days I woke up, I used to want to end the world. And that was a mixture of mental health, depression and everything else. I was labelled in the media as a psychopath in one arrest, which, like I said, if I can put it up, I'll put it up on the screen. I don't think I'll be able to, but yeah. I don't really subscribe to that. I've been told I've got psychopathic tendencies. I've had a personality change in the last few years because I used to be very remorseless. I used to lack empathy. I was very cold and stuff like that. I'm actually a nice person. I've got to be honest. I am a nice person, and I pride myself on my respect and my loyalty. Unfortunately, respect and loyalty are not respected anymore. But yeah, my mental health has led me to a lot of places. My mental health it's come out in violence. I've sat and cried, and I'm not an emotional person at all, but it's broke me at times. The worst my mental health ever got was in prison. And people might think, why would it be bad in prison? Mental health in prison is massive, right? Self-harm, suicide attempts, suicides. When you're in prison, right, it's like the most dangerous thing in prison. I've said this 1,000 times, right? Most dangerous thing in prison. It's not the understaffing. It's not the violence. It's not the drugs. Most dangerous thing in prison. Your own thoughts, your own mind. You can go to some very, very dark places. In prison, you have a magnifying glass on your life. You've got a lot of time to think, to dwell, to overthink, to overanalyze, right? To dwell, right? And I know because it happened to me. And when you're in prison, that life that you've lived, we've all had hard lives to some extent, right? Unless you've lived a nice life, which fair enough, right? Lucky to you. But a lot of these people in prison, before they've ever been offenders, they've first been victims. And a lot of them have got mental health issues. A lot of them are undiagnosed. A lot of them haven't sought help. haven't spoken to people, haven't spoken out, haven't reached out, right? A lot of them have got very obvious mental health issues, but again, they've not been diagnosed. And when you're in prison, that magnifying glass, that you're in prison, right? And the seconds feel like minutes. The minutes feel like hours. The hours feel like days. The days feel like months. The months feel like years. The years feel like forever. And so on and so forth, right? So, and when you're in prison, you've got a lot of time to think. You start to dwell. Your mind can play tricks on you. Example, if you're in a relationship with a girlfriend or a boy, depending on what your sexual orientation is, or your sex or gender, you will develop paranoia in prison. A lot of people do. And like I said, you don't know what's happening outside your cell door, outside the landing, outside the wing, outside the jail, right? Unless you've got a smartphone and stuff. But again, you're restricted. You're looking at the same four walls, right? Look at the prison population at the moment: 23 to 23 and a half hours banged up every day, right? And you spend there's only so much TV you can watch, and you start to soul search. And what prisoners do, they try to keep their mind and get that mental stimulation by keeping themselves active within the cell, doing pad workouts, writing letters, poetry, making things, making matchstick figures and stuff like that, right? And it's to keep the mental stimulation, to stave off them dark thoughts. Because when them dark thoughts sit in, and they do sit in, but what we do as men, we do that whole macho, prison doesn't bother me, do jail standing on my head. I can do my jail standing on my head, but if I was to sit here and tell you that prison hadn't got to me at various points throughout my sentences, I would be lying. I'm not proud of that, but it's just, prison is fucking horrific for your mental health. Like I said, yeah, those on the right say, oh, you've broken the law, Cody, go to prison, who gives a fuck? Right, you're given a prison sentence, you're not given a death sentence, right? And sadly and tragically, too many prisoners have left prison through self-inflicted deaths, right? Suicide, self-harm, things like that, and it's led on to worse things. And mental health services in prison are inadequate. When I was in Strangeways, for example, I'd been up on 4 bail applications, JCs, right? I had my first one when the police refused me bail. 48 hours later, I was back up on a JC, a judge in chambers, a bail application. That was rejected. Right? I was up on a witness intimidation, but I was charged with threats to kill, right? So you get 2. So you get your first one, right? Police refuse your bail. You're kept in till the next day. If you're nicked on a Saturday, you'll go up on a Monday. I was nicked on a Saturday, went up on a Monday. Right, that's your first one. Then you go to prison. I got remanded, well, the judges give me bail, CPS appealed, straight to prison. 48 hours later, there'd be another bail hearing, right? Again, I was kept in prison. The charge for threats to kill was then downgraded to witness intimidation. I got another bail application, because you get 2 bail apps, right, before you're allowed, and then you can only get other ones if there is a change in circumstance, right? So first one, second one, so that was me, 2 strikes, and I had to have a change of circumstance if one came around. It did. My threats to kill was downgraded to witness intimidation, right? A few months later, that witness intimidation went down to attempted witness intimidation. I was on a legal visit with my solicitor, and I said, I want another bail app. And he said, well, we'd rather wait for a bigger break in the case. I said, if you were sat where I was sat now, struggling with a mental health, right, what would you want? He said, I want out, and I want a bail application. I said, I'm qualified for it, get it in. He did, and I got out, thank fuck. So that was that. But yeah, so prison compounded my mental health. But also, by being in prison and watching my fellow man go through the struggle of mental health, away from their friends, away from their family, screaming in their cells, slashing up. A guy jumped off the rail, threw himself off the 2s onto the 1s, and I watched that. It impacted my mental health. But by watching me watch my fellow man, I was forced to see my fellow man go through the mire. And do you know what it did? It led on to this channel. That's why I do this channel, because I've seen what people do. I've seen the suffering firsthand in prisons, mental health, self-inflicted deaths, suicide attempts, self-harm. I've seen it. So it stays with me. Really, really does stay with me. That's why I set up this channel. One of the reasons I set up this channel. It also, by being forced to view this, I grew a conscience, right, whilst I was in prison. I actually grew a conscience for the first time in my life. It was the strangest thing. Stay there, guys, 1 second. I've just got to do something. right? So yeah, so by being in prison and by being forced to witness my fellow man going through the mire psychologically and emotionally and physically, I grew a conscience in prison on my last stretch. By seeking help, I was ashamed because I thought that people would judge me as less of a man. But by talking about it, I actually feel like more of a man. By talking to someone, having counselling, being processed, speaking to psychologists and psychiatrists, right? It started to, I dealt with my inner demons. And where I told you before that my past used to walk me like a dog on a lead, when I processed what had happened and realised I couldn't change it, it went from controlling me to me controlling it. I'd processed what had happened. I couldn't change it. It became part of me. I accepted that. And then moving forward, now I can look forward with my life because what's behind me is behind me. I only look back to see how far I've come, right? Now, like I said, there's people that have reached out to me, and I won't mention any names, but some big lads, big lads, right? They know who they are, right? And they're suffering with mental health, and they've reached out to me. Not, like I said, I'm not a mental health advocate. I'm not mentally health trained in any which way. I'm a sufferer. And I've always suffered, truth be told. And like I said to you, I believe that some of it's hereditary. So it's passed down through your DNA, through your genes. I also believe that many mental health issues stem from childhood abuse, sexual abuse, rapes. It might have been a violent incident. It might have been a violent relationship. It might have been sexual abuse. It might have been as a kid. You might have been raped. You might have been sexually abused, sexually assaulted, whatever the case may be, right? And like I said, what flows from that, what the gates it opens, and it's soul destroying and it's life changing, but not in a positive way. And people turn to addiction, people self-harm. Some people want to swap that emotional pain for physical pain. Now, my outlet wasn't alcohol, wasn't drugs, wasn't crying. I became desensitized, dehumanized, very unsympathetic. I lacked empathy. I had no remorse. I used to hurt people. When I used to hurt people, if I was involved in a violent incident, I used to sleep better. Now that sounds weird, doesn't it? But when you've been subject to violence from a young age, right? Violence, I used to welcome it like an old friend. I don't like violence, right? Look at my nose, guys, right? Everyone can see I've got a big bent nose, right? From fighting, right? I worked the doors. I was literally two people. I literally was like I was a walking contradiction. I was involved in the criminal fraternity and I was hurting people and all this stuff. And it was alleged I was involved with firearms and this, that, and the other, and machetes and blah, 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 right? By night, I used to work on the doors, and yeah, I wanted to fight people, but not like unnecessarily, not in a bully. I was never a bully. I despise bullies, right? But I liked doing the doors because I like protecting people. People that are drunk, people that can't stand up for themselves, people that, like I said, might be raped or abused or mugged or whatever the case may be, right? When I was on the door and I was in the club, I used to take my job seriously because I know it sounds very cliche and a bit dramatic, but people's lives are in your hand and you've got to be careful. So I used to love the job. But then, like I said, when I wasn't working, I was committing criminal acts. And the reason that I think I could do a lot of the things that I did to people and hurt people and stuff and violence was because of my mental health. Because by being conditioned from a young age, like I said, I was beaten and stuff, starved, everything else, right? It made me desensitized and dehumanized. So people hurt me, I hurt other people. And I'm not proud of this. And like I said, a lot of it stems from mental health. And what we do, we keep things locked up. Now, like I said, my mental health has cost me a lot. It's cost me my freedom, my liberty. I ended up in prison. It's cost me relationships because I was a paranoid wreck. I couldn't be in a relationship. I was so fucking paranoid. I would accuse that person. I was depressed. I am insecure, and men are more insecure than women by just default. And I literally I just couldn't be with anyone. I would just so jealous and so insecure that I would push people away. And I was cheated on and stuff like that because of my own actions. Because like I said, I just smother these people. I'm changed now and I'm reformed and everything, and I see things differently and I act differently. But I was very insecure. I've still got the same insecurities as everybody else. But depression was fucking horrible. literally I pushed people away through depression. I went on self-destruct mode. I wouldn't answer the phone. My mood was up and down. Like I said, I had these psychiatrists sticking different labels on me, or psychopathic tendencies, thinking I had psychopathic tendencies, psychopathic traits, sociopathic traits. They reckon that I had an anti-personality disorder. But the one thing that they've all agreed on was my CPTSD, and I've got it in abundance, and I'm not proud of it, and it's horrific, but it's part of me. And rather than fight against it, I embrace it. I do have medication. I've been on very, very different variants, from quetiapine, mirtazapine, sertraline. I was on antipsychotics. I can't remember the name. These red pills. Promethazine hydrochloride. I was on zopiclone, which are a sleeper. I've tried and tested a lot of medication, but with medication, I didn't want to be like a state like zombie with the medication. So I've fought against my medication. I only take my medication now when I need it. Now, realistically, I should take it all the time. But the side effects are horrific. You get dry mouth, you can lose your sexual thingy, which is fine because I am fucking single for 4.5 years. But yeah, you can't ejaculate and stuff, which is a bit hard because I'm a wanker, as you guys know. But yeah, there's a lot of things to be said for mental health, and I have definitely suffered. My sister suffers. My sister's bipolar. She's an alcoholic. She's bipolar, and she struggles with her mental health. My other sister doesn't seem to really experience mental health. Anxiety. Let me go on to anxiety. Anxiety is crippling. Now, I never used to see this, right? But in recent times, in the past few years, right, if I wake up and I'm in a great place, I will jump up and I will go out and I'm fine, right? Other days, I wake up and I'm looking for an excuse to go out the door. An excuse, I can't be bothered. Oh, no, I can leave it. I'll wait till the next day. And I put it off, right? Anxiety is fucking horrific. I used to have to get the confidence up to leave the house. I really started to develop agoraphobia, right? Which is like, you don't like leaving your house. And I think it's confined spaces or something. I hope someone will correct me there. But I was really, really bad. And yeah, and even now, like, if I wake up in a great place, I'm like, yes, I'll grab my bag, I'll grab some water, and I'll be out the door and I'll go for a walk. But the thing is, the thing is with this anxiety, what you need to remember is, obviously, I've done a lot of TV interviews. And like I said, if you see me on TV and I'm not at my best, right, it's not because I'm a shithead and I can't string a sentence together. I'm actually quite articulate in my own way. It stems from anxiety. If I go to a TV appearance in London and I've not slept because I struggle to sleep, as you guys have seen when I'm posting videos at 5, 6 in the morning, if I've not slept and then my anxiety, so you go to a TV studio, I've not slept, right? I've got a short attention span, which is obviously affected by the fact of a lack of sleep, right? Also, I've got anxiety. You're on live TV, you walk onto a TV set, right? You sat with a panel, right? There's cameras, there's about 50 people behind the cameras, right? You've got producers that are in the fucking gallery, fucking watching what's being said and like changing the camera angles and stuff and feeding information to the presenters, right? And you're in this, you're struggling with your mental health this day. And you're trying to speak up for prisoners, or you're covering a prison debate or a prison topic, right? And you've got anxiety and you've not slept and stuff, and your attention span's bad. And then I'm on TV and I look like a sack of shit. Other times I've gone on TV things and I've absolutely smashed it out of the park. And again, it's not me being me. It's not me being shit or me being shit up. It stems from my mental health. And like I said, the anxiety side of things is horrific. I also have got massive insecurities. I've got men are more insecure than women by design. And what we do, we put women on a pedestal. And then when you put someone on a pedestal, you're never going to be good enough, right? And like I said, I have sat and contemplated taking my own life. I tried to hang myself when I was 13 or 14. My home life was bad. I've got a super strong bond with my mum now, but I didn't have. I was put through a lot. And like I said, so if you know me, guys, you'll know what I'm about. But yeah, I suffered immeasurably. And the thing is, though, what we do as men, and also women as well, we bottle things up. When you bottle things up, two things are going to happen. You're going to implode or you're going to explode, right? And I've imploded and I've exploded. And like I've said, it's led me to prison, got in trouble with the law, been arrested, I've severely hurt people. And I don't want to use my mental health as a full excuse, because it's not. But was it a contributing factor? 1,000%. Now, like I said, a lot of offenders, before they've ever been offenders, they've first been victims. They've grown up in care, sexually abused, physically abused, emotionally abused, parents were addict, care leavers, grown up in care, passed from pillar to post, care leavers, everything in between. Doesn't make them a bad person. And like I said, if you are raised in a violent environment, are you just a violent person being violent, or are you a product of your environment? And like I said, so for me, mental health is hereditary. It's also, you're molded by experiences as a child and so on and so forth. And it's no laughing matter. I think that mental health it's no laughing matter. People with addictions, I used to look at people like pissheads and druggies and think, just pissheads being pissheads and druggies being druggies, it's a choice. Now I see it, because I'm away from that world. My real dad's an alcoholic, my sister's an alcoholic. So yeah, I see it for what it is. Alcohol and addiction are normally derived from childhood experiences, so sexually abused, physically abused, emotionally abused. It's like people use cannabis. I know many people that have been abused and they use cannabis to calm them down, but then they become dependent on the cannabis, right? And it's a crux, it's a coping mechanism. What I'm alluding to, it's a coping mechanism. People take substances. Some people just take it because they want to, but there are a lot of people that don't want to take prescription medication, so they self-medicate. They use cannabis. They might use ecstasy, whatever the pill may be, cocaine, alcohol, right? And it's a coping mechanism. It's a coping mechanism for what they've been through in their life. Not everyone feels comfortable going to speak to a psychologist or a psychiatrist, right? I didn't. But at the same time, these people are professionals. Now, like I said, people are suffering in silence. And sadly and tragically, what flows from that, people seek suicide as a way out. Now, look at people like Robin Williams. Robin Williams, the laughter he gave the world. For those that don't know, and you should know, Robin Williams was a world-renowned actor, right? Fantastic actor. And he brought smiles to millions of people, and he was always smiling and bubbly. But behind that smile, the man had internal turmoil, and he had significant mental health issues, and he tragically and sadly took his own life. Chester Bennington, the lead singer of Linkin Park, the guy had all the money in the world, wasn't enough. Like I said, money doesn't bring happiness. People, if you speak to people spoke to people like Chester Bennington and things like that, if you said to them, you can have all the money in the world and all your riches taken away, but you can be happy, right? They'd probably pick being happy over the money, because money doesn't necessarily mean you're happy. This is the thing, guys. Money doesn't make you happy, right? And too many people, celebrities and everything, and other people are taking their own life. And we need to talk about this more. We need to get it out there. We need to deal with the situation. Like I said, I will put my number in the description below. If anybody wants to speak to me, morning, noon, or night, I will talk to you around the clock, right? We need to encourage people to talk about it and seek help. My biggest thing, right, and it's sad, but it's one of the proudest things I've ever done. When I actually sat down and was breaking up inside and my brain was going mental, right? And like I said, I wanted to end the world. There's days where I wake up and there's a list of people in my head and I think, I'm going to take these fuckers out and go out in a hail of bullets or do it and then string up or something, right? And other days I wake up and I'm broken inside. It's the weirdest thing. And my proudest thing was when I realised that I need to speak to somebody. So when I went to that doctor's that day and the doctor was like, I was rambling on in a bad way, that was the best thing I ever did. It was the biggest step. The first step in anything is admitting it. And I will admit it. I am Cody. I'm 36 and I suffer with significant mental health issues. Doesn't make me a bad person. Doesn't change me as a person. I'm still a good kid with a good heart, but my mental health is bad. It's not as bad as a lot of people, but it's worse than others. It's that thing. But because the life I've lived, I am definitely indestructible. I've been homeless twice, guys. Never turned to drugs, never turned to drink. I was just violent. That was my outpouring for everything was extreme violence. shameful thing, not happy about it, not proud of it, but it's the reality of my situation. Like I said, it's just crippling, guys, with the anxiety and the depression and mental health and the complex PTSD. Every night I go to, I'm not involved in crime in any way, shape or form, right? I've moved away from it. I moved to a new place. And what I do every night when I go to bed, I set out my clothes. I set out at the moment, well, it's pissing it down here in Manny at the minute, but normally fold some clothes, so tracky bottoms, boxers, socks on top, pull them out so they like lay on top of each other, t-shirt, make sure my wallet's there, my keys there, just in case, because in my head, I was so used to police coming through my door. So I still carry that same mantra, right? I have certain triggers that I had. I try to focus with positivity now. I try to do breathing exercises. I listen to acoustic music. Anyone that's suffering with mental health, the power of music, right, is so underestimated. Music for me, I could be in a rage and I listen to music and it will calm me down. It will calm my demeanor down. It will calm my person down. If you're listening to hyped up music, you're like, yeah, and you've got that sort of quick thinking. When you slow it down and you listen to an acoustic playlist on YouTube or something, right, it soothes my whole soul. Before I used to go and do the doors, I used to have this like weird like thing. I prep all my clothes and everything. I'd go and run a hot bubble bath. I'd lay in the bubble bath with a Bluetooth speaker. I used to lay there in the bath with an acoustic playlist on, candles, relaxing music, because I knew in an hour or two I was going to be in a club with fucking banging music, right? And I didn't want it, so I tried to calm my soul before I used to go to work, and I used to feel brilliant about it. Other people have got things that work for them, but like I've said, when you, a lot of people self-medicate with drugs or drink, right, or self-harm or whatever the case may be. I didn't have any of that. So what my outpouring, once I come away from crime, I don't have that violence. I still have within me the anger, but I don't release it. I keep it bottled up, right? Now, what I'm saying to you is I've got no release. People taking drugs, that's their release. People drinking, that's their release. People self-harming, sadly, that's their release. I don't have them releases. I have to deal with my inner emotions and stuff, with conflicts, and I use music and things like that. And like I said, it's not for everybody, guys, what I'm saying. But the thing is, we need to start talking about mental health. If you are suffering, do not suffer in silence. Please seek help. It will be the first day of the rest of your life. There are no shame. I've been involved with the criminal underworld. I was a fighter. The one fight I couldn't win was mental health. Well, I did in the end, but it was battering me for a long time. And once I dealt with my mental health issues and I spoke out about it, I became free. And I still suffer with these things, but I've learned to work with it rather than against it, if that makes sense. Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave the video here. We're 33 minutes in, guys. I'm so sorry to waffle on. Hopefully people are... I'm not too good with this. My train of thoughts all over. But hopefully this has made sense to some extent. Very grateful for everyone's likes, comments and subscriptions. If anybody needs to contact me for any reason at all, get me on YouTube. Well, this is YouTube. Facebook, Cody Lachey. Instagram, Cody Lachey, all one word. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. My mobile number is in the description below. Let me know what you guys think. Please stay safe, guys. If you need to talk, my number's there. Hit me up morning, noon or night. Leave it there, guys. Like, comment, subscribe. Cody out.